It is a phenomenal property, and it carries on the spirit of Star Trek. We're going to talk to the cast of Star Trek Continues tomorrow, and the moderator for your panel this evening is a member of the Star Trek Continues cast. Please give a massive, massive welcome to Miss Michele Specht. Michele!
Thank you, Devin. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Who is excited? I am so excited. I am here with you. We are here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Star Trek Voyager. I can't believe it's been this long, but we're going to have a wonderful time, and I just don't want to waste any time. Let's just get right to it. What do you think? Should we introduce everybody? All right, coming up first, fabulous Manu Intiraymi. Egypt! Let's give him applause. That was planned, and he executed it perfectly, just like rehearsal. Next up, Mr. Ethan Phillips. Woohoo! Yes. Next up, everybody's favorite forever ensign, Mr. Garrett Wang. And my favorite and your favorite doctor as well, Mr. Robert Picardo. Let's give a round of applause for Commander Chakotay, Mr. Robert Beltran.
That's right, Bobby. That's right, Bobby.
It's a very serious cast, as you can tell, very serious. All right, everybody's favorite Vulcan, Mr. Tim Russ. Yay! We made it.
Sure enough to get better billing. That's right, Kimbo.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first female captain in any Star Trek show ever, and personally my favorite and your favorite as well, Miss Kate Mulgrew. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a mic set up right down here, so if you'd like to start lining up for questions, please do so. We'll get to them in a minute. But just to start off with, I'd like to ask a general question of everybody, if that's all right. Over 7 years, as you reflect now, 20 years later, I would love to hear a favorite or fondest memory from each of you of your experience on the show, either in front of or behind the camera. Who would like to start?
Do we have a good memory?
We will have to be, yes.
Let me start, because then I'll be done. It's friendship. It's just about that simple, because you're with these people day and night, right? And as you can see, it's a lot of testosterone. But I weathered that storm, and I'm still standing. And I'm grateful to each of you gentlemen. What's your name? Friendship. I love them.
Something very similar. When I first showed up on the sound stages on the Paramount lot, the very first day that Rick Berman and the cast was going to get together and they were going to show us all the sets and everything, I met, the first person I met in the cast was Ethan Phillips. We walked from the parking lot down that narrow alley between the sound stages to get there. The very last day that I packed up my trailer and left the sound stage and left the lot for the last time, I walked down that same alley with Ethan Phillips back to the car. Yeah, it's a true story. And that's a very poignant moment for me.
I wanted to take the flute home because it was that flute sound that was always around when Chakotay showed up on the scene. I wanted that flute, but they wouldn't let me have it. Nevertheless, I have to second Kate's remark. It's about friendship, working with a great cast and a great crew, and great fans.
Well, there are children in the audience, so I can't discuss the real nature of the Tim Russ and Ethan Phillips relationship. It was hell to witness, I got to tell you. Every year on the show, because our captain is Irish, we got treated to a St. Patrick's Day dinner by our captain, Kate Mulgrew. We got corned beef and cabbage. And a bottle of whiskey. A bottle of Jameson's Irish whiskey every year. Something to look forward to every season. So there was that. Because the one thing that really helps friendships, as you know, is a bottle of Irish whiskey. So I thank Kate for that too. So I will second the friendship, leavened with a little extra zing.
Oh my. Oh, wrong cast. Sorry. All right. I would have to say it has to do with when we were getting our action figures. Our first set of action figures, the 6-inch action figures, they told us, okay, it's going to take us a year to get them all done. And my friends were telling me, they were like, yeah, we're going to buy your action figure, and we're going to do voodoo on them and, do that kind of stuff. So I laughed about it until the day they actually knocked on my trailer door and handed me my action figure. It was CBS, Paramount Marketing, and they're here's your action figure. So I pick it up, I look at it, I see myself in 6-inch plastic, and I start shaking, and I get overwhelmed, and I start tearing up. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is my action figure. And as I'm about to have this moment where I'm actually going to cry over it, Robert Beltran walks behind me, looks over my shoulder, and goes, hey man, you look Mexican. Oh man. Ruined it. Touching moment, ruined by the commander. Okay.
That's a great story. I didn't even know that. There's a lot of memories that come to mind. We had so much fun on this set. And I didn't know we were going to have fun. That when I found out we were going to have fun, I remember it was the very first show. And I had a little scene on the bridge with Robert McNeil. And we had pads. Remember the pads? And they're spelled in the script P-A-D-D with 2 Ds. And we're doing the scene, and Robbie turns to me and he goes, Neelix, could you pass me the pad? And he's got a little smile in his eye. And I said, okay, we're going to have some fun on this show, aren't we?
I've got a funny memory from, I was sitting in my car at the last episode, and I hadn't talked to anyone because I just had one scene where I beat Tim in a game of Calto, thank you. And I was so proud of that, just to be smarter than Tim. So I actually was out in my car and I was watching Tim and Ethan walk to their respective places and had my binoculars out. Well, that's not the story I was going to tell, but actually I was in my car watching you two. I was on The Haunting of Deck 12, this guy. I mean, anytime the boys were on set, we never got anything done. That's why we shot 16-hour days, is that everyone made jokes all day long. This one's reading to the children, and he's supposed to say, I even remember the line, I'm going to read you a story. Flutter meets the invisible vertebrae. But instead of saying that, on camera with the 6-year-old kids, 5-year-old kids, he goes, I'm going to read you guys a story. My pet duck farts too much. Yes, you did. And the kids started laughing to the point where every time he said that line, I think it took 35 takes because they couldn't stop. You don't share fart jokes with kids. Well, yeah, they love it, but then we can't shoot the rest of the day.
I couldn't help myself.
Just for a second. Everybody, if you do have questions, there's the microphone right here. Please line up and we'll get to them, of course. In the meantime, Kate, I'd love to ask you a question, just from a visual standpoint as a fan. There was a marked difference, for me at least, in the commanding style of Captain Janeway at the beginning of the show, and then very soon afterward. We saw a shift between season 1 and season 2. There was a difference in her commanding style and who she was. I would love to know if you had a part in that. Was that a conscious decision? Was that something, and if it was, did you have a part in that decision?
That's called exhaustion. I did have a part because in the first season, they were just so upset by the fact that I was a girl. They couldn't get over it, that I had bosoms and, hair. What are we going to do with all that hair? And so they were always touching me and fooling around with me. I couldn't, Really, how many hairdos did I have in the first season?
4 or 5 at least. Yeah, 4 or 5.
Ridiculous. Captain Janeway was really busy trying to get out of the Delta Quadrant. Oh, let me just do my updo, and then I'll get my hookdo. So I finally went to them and I said, please, can I just command? And I think they were so tired by then. And they said, yeah, give it a shot. And it worked. And then it all just sort of relaxed and took off. I had a great time. Yes. Yeah. You want to...
Not on. Do we have a tech? There we go. Welcome to Houston. And on behalf of, I know, all the fans, we thank y'all for just continuing the Star Trek legacy, because it was just an awesome show. As an educator, I always like to ask successful people as yourself, did you have someone that inspired you, a teacher, a mentor, someone that inspired you to be who you are now? Don't all go at once.
Well, I'll never forget, what's his name? No, when I was in high school, I remember I wanted to play football, but I was a little guy, so I couldn't play. And I said, well, I'll audition for the drama club. And I went in, and they were doing the high school production of the Scottish tragedy, which you all know. And go outside, turn around 3 times, throw salt over your shoulder, and ask permission to come back in. This is not a theater, is it? And so I was auditioning for Old Seward, who has basically 2 lines in the 5th act. And what it is they come up, somebody comes up to Old Seward and says, Lord Seward, your son has been cut in half and lies slain on the battlefield. And Old Seward's response is, he is dead then? But in fact, it's not supposed to be read like that. And I read it, he is dead then. And the priest, I went to a Jesuit prep school, he said to me, no, son, you don't understand, this man's child has just been killed. And I want to see in your reading of that line, I want to see a little passion, and I want to see some sadness, and I want to see some anxiousness and confusion. In other words, how would you react if you learned your child was killed? And I remember as a little boy thinking, oh my God, I just got to pretend that my little boy was killed. And so I summoned up all the passion I could, and I read the line. And this priest looked at me, and he said, you're very good, son. And that was what set me on feeling that I could do this. It was the first time in my life anybody told me I was really good at something. And it just goes to
He's dead then?
That's right. That's right. Just like that. Now, the priest was psychotic and was eventually arrested and sent to a mental institution. But that's not part of the story. So that priest, Father McBride. And so he was the guy who set me on my path. So how about you?
Well, I had an English teacher in high school whose name was Shakespeare. Not a joke, Edward Shakespeare, and he directed all the school plays. He had lost an arm in the Korean War. He was a very interesting and slightly scary figure, incredibly handsome, was a silver fox like Mr. Beltran here.
That's right, Mom.
But he had that hair and then a big metal arm, and he was a little scary when I was a younger student, but he somehow I was coaxed into the school play by the biggest ham in the class, a guy named Bill Barker. Bill was one of those kids who grew taller than everybody else first, and he was a clown, a class clown, and he needed someone to set up his jokes in a 2-character play. So I was pushed into being his straight man. In other words, I had all the sort of setup lines for his play in the 9th grade school play called Box and Cox, which is not a dirty play. It was about 2 guys who lived in the same apartment and didn't know it because their landlord, who wanted double the rent, one of them worked by day and one worked by night. So it was a silly, farcical play. And he played the, he played the guy, the big blustery guy, and I had to play something different than him. So that's where I played my first sort of effete, uptight, officious character, just like I did on Star Trek. And I got laughs too, and I was bitten with the bug about that age. And then Mr. Shakespeare, our teacher, saw that I was talented in comedy, and then he pushed me, as the years went by, to do different roles, culminating in senior year with forcing me to do the lead in The Crucible, which is a very dramatic play, which I was afraid of doing. And then and I saw that he was trying to get me to see whether my interest in being an actor was genuine or not. So I credit him with being my mentor at that age. No.
Why wasn't I up for that?
Complete failure.
I don't know if I can say I had mentors. I know I had dementors. I had a coach. I loved playing baseball. I had a coach that could never get my name right, and it's really not that hard. But he would say something like, "Belger, get in there." I said, you mean me? Get in there, Belger. Or it would be, "Beltraman, get in there." So after our last game of the season, after the last game of the season, I walked up to him and I said, "Coach, it's Beltran!" He said, "Get out of here, Belger."
That is funny, man. I'm sorry. That is funny. My professor in college was one of the people that I really admired and adored. It was Edward Mangum. He founded the Arena Theater, co-founded the Arena Theater in Washington, D.C., and the theater that I was studying in was in Texas. It was in Austin, actually. And on my undergraduate school, he was the professor. He was the head professor of the theater department, and he was a wonderful guy. He's classically trained, had a wonderful dry sort of sense of humor, and I remember he always said one thing. He said, "Whatever you do," he says, "make them cry, make them laugh, make them angry. Just don't bore them." That's all he used to say all the time, and I never forgot that, actually. Give him something. He was a wonderful professor, and that was one of the people that I studied under, and was very happy to have that opportunity.
You never did forget that.
No, I did not.
Thank y'all.
That is true. Excellent. Okay. Another question? Yes, sir.
So I wanted to know if there was ever a scene or a storyline that you wanted to take away from one of the other characters, either because it was like more fun or because you thought you could do it better than them, that sort of thing.
Next question.
It would make for an interesting episode. All of us playing everybody else.
No, I'll say something to that. Hold on. I just tell you that every time that we had any scenes where we got to go down to Earth and have different clothes than our horrible Starfleet uniforms we had to wear, who got left on the ship? Me. So I just watched as these folks got to wear modern 20th century clothing when they went onto Venice Beach. Yeah. I watched when other people were doing the Hirogen. Remember the Hirogen episode where everyone was in the holodeck? Some people got to wear World War II stuff. Some people got to dress as Klingons. And who got to wear that horribly tight Starfleet, hot, sweaty, scratchy, itchy, wool blend Starfleet issue uniform? Me. I am not married. I do not have kids. But when I get married, and if I try to have kids and I find out that I cannot have children, I'm going to sue Paramount Studios because those Starfleet uniforms are made to fit perfectly when standing up. The minute you sit down, it pulls in one place, right here. So you may hear about a lawsuit in the future. Maybe not. Thank you.
I remember that Garrett and I used to audition as the Doctor often. We were always auditioning to be the Doctor.
All right, come on, let's hear it.
I practiced as soon as I got onto the set. Hello, everyone.
Is that yours?
Isn't it a lovely day? So, where are my lines? And I hope they're funny. And Garrett had his.
I get to audition too.
Can I audition as a Doctor also?
Yes,
Okay, ready? Hold on.
Just remember, Kes, anybody can stargaze on the bridge, but the real action happens in sick bay.
It sounds like I'm on helium. All right, if you really want to audition,
Garrett, we all do. All of your impersonations are on helium. No, you never. Yes, you. Listen to him do me. Do me.
Yeah, do it. Come on.
Go on. Go on. But not on helium.
Kate Mulgrew
I
just said,
challenge
do
you.
me. Did you hear that?
Robert, Picardo, in
Sorry,
the
I'm
front
sorry.
row, tiny children.
They said there was a lot of testosterone on set, and she
All right.
thanked every one of us. Do you remember that? Do you hear that? Okay. All right.
It's not crunch time yet, Mr. Kim. There's coffee in that nebula.
That's not helium. That's a lot of helium.
Is that how I sound?
Captain.
Wonder why you never got that promotion.
Oh my.
Robert Beltran had a very difficult time memorizing his lines because he didn't bother. And he would sometimes put them on the bottom of his coffee cup. And he did. He'd go, Captain, there's a corned beef sandwich on deck 11, or whatever it was. But he'd forget his lines, and he'd always go, we had a script supervisor named Cosmo. And Cosmo was the one you'd call if you needed your line. You'd go, Captain, I think, Cosmo, what's my line? I think there's a whatever the correction, whatever the lines were. And you asked Cosmo a lot. And Cosmo was, so Cosmo, once I actually called Robert at home and got his answering machine, and it said, hi, this is Robert. Cosmo, what's my name? And I realized he had Cosmo back at his house telling him what to say.
True story.
I have Robert's name written inside my hat, and that's why I'm sitting next to him.
So this is a question specifically for Mr. Picardo. I really loved your role because not only were you playing a doctor in a hologram, you're on this emotional roller coaster of, becoming more human and trying to figure out more emotions. Was there ever a time, say when you're getting ready for your role, is there something specific you did to get ready for that, to be able to keep that straightforward attitude but still show that you're learning emotion? Did you ever find that hard or anything you did specific?
No. No, I'm kidding. I wouldn't have considered it an emotional roller coaster. Thank you. I mean, when I was cast in the show, I called everybody I know and said, I got a good job. It's a Star Trek series. It'll run 7 years. It'll put my children through college. But I have to tell you, I have the worst part on the show. The worst. Here's how it's described. Colorless, humorless, a computer program of a doctor. Does that sound like a lot of laughs to you? It sounded awful. And then, but when and in the first episode, I just said things that were, I got a laugh saying, medical tricorder, to him. And then I just realized that all I had to do was sound pissy, and because the idea that a computer program had a bad attitude was a funny idea. So it dawned on me that I had lucked into something a lot better than I had understood at the time. But, and what was fun was because Data, Star Trek loves to give you something you've liked before, but tweak it a little bit. And Data, of course, had no emotions until he got to the big screen. I was hoping that I'd get to the big screen and get something new too, but I never did. But he got his emotion ship at the end, or whatever the heck that was. And and I knew that I was following a very popular character. Data had been so popular on the show, and so I tease Brent. I say to him, you were like a robot, right? I never saw you on the show, but I hear you were just you just like a danger Will Wheaton,
Hi. Well, I was going to ask why poor Ensign Kim never got promoted, but I guess I know the answer to that one now. What is the strangest thing any of you had to do for a role? For any role?
I auditioned for Leonard Nimoy before Voyager, and I got 3 pages of a scene for a Klingon captain, and his name was like Captain Kofluk. And I had to go over to Leonard Nimoy's house in Brentwood. I live way across the other side of town. And I didn't have the script. I didn't have the whole script, just my 3 pages. And so I walked into his room, and there were like 20 producers sitting around in a round table, and there was one seat in the middle for the person who was going to be auditioning. So I sat down and looked at all these people and tried to be amiable. And one of them asked me, "Do you have any questions?" And I said, well, because I never watched Star Trek. I said, well, yeah, what is a Klingon? Now, it was a sincere question. I thought it was kind of intrinsic to the part, so I wanted to know what a Klingon actually was. And so Leonard just goes. I could see his ears growing. Shall we just read? So I did the stupid scene. I walk outside, and a buddy of mine is getting ready to audition for the same role, and he saw me fuming. He said, "Hey, what happened?" I said, "You know what? I asked a question, and they got so pissed off at me. I said, 'What is a Klingon, man?'" And he laughed. He just busted up laughing because you auditioned for Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek and you don't know what a Klingon is? And so I was like, F a Klingon, F Nimoy, F Star Trek. The screen door was wide open, and all of them were looking at me like... That might be the strangest audition I heard.
I had an audition where my agent called me and told me, "You're auditioning for a character who is the angriest man in the world." And that's how it was described, the angriest man in the world. And I went over to see Gail Eisenstadt over at NBC, and I walked in the room and I read for her. And she said, "That was wonderful. Can we do it again a little less angry?" I was like the angriest man in the universe? I don't know.
I had a callback for an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie called The Sixth Day, and I had to do a dying scene. And I had on shorts because I was a hippie kid with a mullet at the time. Yeah, I know that was pretty strange in and of itself. But I decided, so stupid. Do you guys know that producer with the red hair? He's a mega famous guy. But anyway, he's producing the film, and it's a round table. It's in a room with a big desk and a bunch of suits around the table, and Arnold's sitting there. And the first thing he says is, "Intiraymi, what kind of name is that?" And I go, "Well, what kind of name is Schwarzenegger?" Which was the first mistake. He said, "It means black plowman," which I thought was sort of a racist name. And so it got worse. Then at the end of it, I decided that I was going to be really dramatic, and I crawled up on the table of this expensive, highbrow suit, Hollywood suits office. And I did this really dramatic death scene in front of Schwarzenegger and the rest of them. They're all looking at me really bad. And I realized that when I left, that I was laying up on the table with my shorts on, and I was showing Schwarzenegger my board balls for the most. So I didn't get the part, but it was the strangest thing I've ever done in an audition.
Wait a minute. Why did you not get the part?
I was like 17. Thank you so much. Let's take another one. Who's next?
Here we go.
Hi. Before I ask my question, I just want to tell Kate you've been amazing in Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think you should always walk around with talking in a Russian accent. It's amazing. It's very intimidating. But my question for everyone is, would y'all come back and do a reunion episode? And what would it take to do that? What would the story be? A reunion episode.
I
Like,
I'd love to do that. Beltrano, wouldn't you love to do that? We'll put your lines in a special little hat. Which one would it be? Which one would it be? Twisted. In which one did we shake the most? Oh, Kim, what's her name, always did that one. The shake. Remember we got the tapes? We were sent tapes to our homes, our respective homes. Shake. Just how to shake. Because in the middle of 4 pages of dialogue, Captain Janeway standing alone on the bridge, you'd hear, shake, shake, shake. And we'd all have to shake. And sometimes some of us would forget to shake. And we'd have to go all the way back to the beginning. But which one would we choose, you guys? Which reunion episode are we going to do?
I'd have to go with Twisted. I'd have to go with...
How about Night?
The
Captain's Log?
What's that?
Remember Night, Kate?
Which one?
Night?
I don't even remember what happened in Night.
Well, that was the one with the Captain's Log.
I had a captain's... I'm sorry, sweetie pie, in the front row. Look at her. She started sitting up. Now she's in an absolutely...
Oh, finish the story.
I'm not going to tell that story.
What was the one with Species 8472? What was the one where I copulated with Lieutenant Paris and we had little lizards? We had lizards.
I'm sorry, dear. Threshold. Threshold was the name of that.
That was the Nader, wasn't it? Yeah, let's really have a rocking great
Yeah, the salamanders.
episode about Paris and Janeway in the turbo lift. Reproducing lizards. That was called a bottle show, ladies and gentlemen.
I think the final episode would have been great to redo because I remember reading the script and thinking the first hour was amazing. The second hour tied everything up too quickly. So I remember calling up the executive producers and I said, you really want to make this amazing? Film the first hour and then air that on TV and say, to be continued at a theater near you. And then a 2-hour movie of us getting back home, right? To replace that god-awful next-gen movie that came out in 2002, which was what? What was that? Nemesis, Insurrection, whatever. Those two were worse than any TNG episode, okay? So you could have had a Voyager 2-hour movie, and we stepped foot on Earth like that. We didn't even step foot on Earth. We ended the show in orbit. What the hell is that? Okay, sorry.
It was good.
Oh, it was
Endgame
good,
was
but
good.
it could have been. We could have showed more. Code of Honor's the worst of all. So, but Kate, we could have got to Earth. We could have found out what happened to Janeway's dog. Well, there's so many things that we want to know about.
We did find out. We did. He's never even seen it. We did.
That's pretty good.
In his own mind.
Yes.
Wonderful. Who's next?
Kate and Robert, I can't remember your name, Icheb. I was wondering...
Oh, Icheb.
Hey, let me tell you a story on that. A couple years ago, I was doing J. Edgar. Real quick story. Clint Eastwood is directing it, and I'm doing this scene with Leonardo DiCaprio, so I'm really nervous. Clint Eastwood, when I first get on the set, he walks slowly across the stage, and he looks at me dead in the eye, and he goes, well, if it isn't Manu, blah, blah, blah. And elbowed me, so yeah. It's okay, my name's Manu. Yeah.
I was wondering if y'all three would be replaying your roles in the Star Trek Online.
Robert and me, I would love to do some work on Star Trek Online. I know some of these guys already have,
Yeah.
but I know Icheb's hanging out on K7. I don't know what else he's doing, but I hope he does something. That would be great.
All right. Good.
It was
He's good. He's got. Who is next?
Yeah. Who's next?
I guess he called me Robert.
Come on up. Hi there.
Sorry, I have to do it justice. First, I have to say, Katie, you're awesome. You're wonderful. Love all your roles, including Coneheads.
I love all your.
Love that movie. Yeah, right. Anyway, this is for the entire cast. What were some of your most memorable moments doing the entire show? of the entire show. Sorry, it's
My most memorable moment was always when they said, "That's a wrap."
Of course.
My most memorable moment was meeting Tim Russ for the first time in the pilot episode. I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Garrett Wang." He's like, I'm Tim Russ. And I said, "You know what? If you take one letter from your character's name, Tuvok, and replaced it with another letter like P, you could have been Tupac." Okay, the rapper. So Tim doesn't respond to that. He just looks at me. Like that, right? He gives me about 5 seconds of nasty look, and then he says something. He goes, "Rap music. Rap music is the reason for the fall of modern Western civilization."
How can you diss us rappers like that? Come on.
I'm sure it wasn't quite said that way. I think
Oh, it was. That's okay.
I'm pretty sure the fall of the Western civilization. I mean, I'm going to give that much impact from rap music. I don't think so. But I did say something along that line.
What was your most memorable moment?
Oh, I have. As far as being on the show, I got to tell you that to me it was memorable because it was such a trip to come to work. This was near the end of the series. It was like the last week or so we were shooting. And to come into the soundstage, and I'm on one of the sets, and the set next to me is being taken apart while we're getting ready to do the scene. And that was, an eye-opener. It caught me off guard. I walked in there, and they're literally taking the set down. We've been living on these sets for 7 years. So it was very, very, it was eye-opening, and it was kind of stunning. So it was a very strange feeling. I don't know if Kate felt that or not, but it was just because they were tearing them down while we were still shooting.
I'll say, I was kept. You guys were all released one by one. Johnny, you went first. That was a terrible day. That was hard. At the end of the series, you were the first to be released. Do you remember? Maybe even 2 weeks in advance.
I did a part on the final show, but it was just a conversation with 7 of 9.
Right, but I know that you were the first to go. We
Yeah.
all had a cake and a goodbye and tears and all that because he was so great, right? And then one by one, finally there were a couple of days with us, the group of us on the bridge, and you lot were released, and it was just me. And I was kept for 5 days of close-ups and pickups for the entire season, right? Just in case. And I swear to God, I sat in my captain's chair, and I delivered every single line they gave me. I did it standing, I did engage, I did red alert, I did it sitting, I did it all for 5 days. And just as we were about to wrap, a crew guy came with his screwdriver and started to undo my chair. The chair is being dismantled. The consoles are being ripped from behind me, right? And I'm trying to do it, and nobody's there. Berman didn't come. None of the producers came. I was all alone, and finally I heard in from the darkness, "Well, that's it, Kate. Thanks for a great 7 years, and that's a wrap." I stood there. I'm not kidding. I started to cry. Oh, my God. Is this it? When I saw silhouetted in the briefing room door, this one, the doctor.
The gleam of light shining off my head.
Come here, Captain. Give me a hug. Let's go and have a drink. And that's why I say the memory is friendship.
Kate, the night we were filming the scene where B'Elanna Torres and Tom Paris get married, because we were having a wedding scene, there was some sort of party atmosphere, and I remember sitting in Kate's trailer, and Kate, who played, Captain Janeway, had this sort of it looked like a little English cottage in her trailer. She had like doilies and an upholstered chair. It was so unlike what she was doing on screen. It was kind of fun to be there. And we sat there, and I swear this is the only time I remember this in 7 years, but we decided, hey, we're going to a wedding. Let's have a cocktail.
I had a bar.
Do you remember that? She served me a drink, and then we went in and shot the scene. Fortunately, I didn't have to talk because because I knew that I would be
We had more
nervous.
than one drink, Bob.
Only one. Before the scene. But I remember that night sitting in her room. It seemed so civilized, you know, to be there and having a little cocktail with a doily, with a little cocktail napkin. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Next question, please.
Hi, so first I would like to thank you all. Y'all are actually the reason why I became a Trekkie. I was raised to be a Star Wars fan, and then I found y'all's show, in which my family was very like, oh my God, why? And then I was like, but look at Janeway, and look at the rest of the crew, man. They're amazing. And so before my question, I would like to say my favorite episode, or at least one of my favorite episodes, is when Q tries to seduce Janeway.
You can call him John Delancey.
Okay. I guess it's just a hilarious
In the bathtub?
episode. Yeah, oh my gosh, so many scenes were just too funny. But talking about love, hey Doc, what did you think about Chakotay ending up with 7 and 9?
How do I feel about that?
Yeah.
I think it was a terrible mistake.
I agree.
Yeah,
I completely, no offense to Chakotay, but
We all make mistakes
yeah,
in life.
I agree.
But that was a terrible mistake.
Yes. So I'm glad
What do
you
you
agree
think?
with me.
Well,
It was a first romance.
you know, Chakotay didn't have much to do with women during that show. Those 7 years were very, very. Well, the captain, she turned me down for a monkey on the when we were. Here we are, stranded on a planet by ourselves, and I'm trying to go. And here's Chakotay trying to get close to the captain. She goes, "Oh, look, a monkey!"
That was so strange. You were combing my hair and massaging mine. I was so interested in the little. And do you remember he got lost in the rafters? He went up, up, up. What was wrong with Janeway? I was riveted by that stupid monkey.
It was sort of tough for me on that show too, because I was 21 when I got the part, but I was playing like 16.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of scenes with Jerry Ryan. And just a lot of tight two shots where you're right there, you know, and I was 21. Did I mention when I? And it's something that, yeah, it's not shared a lot, but it's very hard to hide an erection in a Starfleet uniform. Oh my. And so most of my memories are of just running off set for this reason or that reason, to get a bagel, or I got to go to the bathroom, or I got to go talk to, you know, to get rid of my boner.
See a man about a horse.
Now, if you remember, yes, Chakotay ended up with 7, and before it was the Doctor, but before the Doctor, Kim had his chance. Remember that? That horrible episode where Kim invites 7 of 9 to the mess hall under the guise of doing work. The lights are down low, right? I'm reading the script as an actor going, oh, this is great, yes, you know. And then 7 of 9 calls Ensign Kim's bluff. Ensign, you seem aroused, or whatever she says. And then she says the immortal words, do you wish to copulate, right? And I'm reading this as an actor going, yeah! And then I read my lines, ... no. I flipped the page, like, where is it? Just kidding, just kidding. No, it wasn't there. After, when we filmed that scene that day, I remember the director goes, cut! Jerry Ryan looks at me and she goes, you lost out. She turns to the rest of the crew there, the sound guy, the cameraman. She goes, any takers? They're like, ooh, ooh, me. Ensign Kim is a wuss. He won't do it. Me. So I was supposed to be the one. Not the Doctor, not Chakotay, but Kim. But because of the damn writers, we didn't see that.
Yep. Dial-up betrayed you. Thank you so much, guys.
You got it.
Can I ask a question of you? Did you even kiss 7 of 9? Passionately?
We did have one kiss, but I was a hologram.
Wait a minute. That's my line.
So I could only enjoy it as Robert Beltran. Yeah, we did kiss once, I think. Yeah.
It was such a fast romance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very fast. But you know, I challenged Jerry. I said, Jerry, we were sitting in the makeup table, and I said, Jerry, you know, since you're going out with Brannon, who is one of the chief writers, he'll never write a scene where you and I kiss. He's too jealous. He would never write where you and I kiss. And she said, oh my God, I'm going to tell him what you just said. I think it's so funny. Well, like 2 episodes later, that's when they threw us together. And he wrote me a note. It said, who's jealous?
Yeah, I'll tell you something about 7 of 9. She was wearing this derma regenerating suit, right? This is the reason it was so tight. They were regenerating her skin. It was a derma regeneration. She wore it for, what, 4 years? I said, let's take it off and see if it worked. Come on. What the hell is going on here?
All right. We're moving along here. We're moving on. Suffice it to say, you all had a relationship with 7 of 9. What's the next question?
My question was, were you guys ever fans of the other franchises, Deep Space Nine, TNG? Did you guys ever have any dialogue
I
with
was
the
a
other cast members?
Absolutely not.
I've always
Next
wanted to
question.
ask
Huge
that.
fan of Enterprise. I was a huge fan of Enterprise. I have all of them on DVD.
What are you talking about?
It's the series that came after us.
You didn't watch it? Scott Bakula and
Dracula.
It was great.
Come on, Tim, come out of the closet. Tim's a real Star Trek fan.
Oh,
Come on.
yes, you are.
No,
Yes.
when I was growing up, we only had, you know, when I was back in the old days, we used to walk.
That was in short
We used to
pants.
walk uphill both ways to school and back. We didn't have a television. Yeah. We had people come over and do hand shadows. That was our entertainment. We only had 3 channels, and that was with an antenna television. It wasn't cable. Yeah, just in my case, a coat hanger for an antenna, but it was an antenna. We had 3 channels. We had the reruns of, let me count them, I Love Lucy, Gilligan's Island, and Star Trek. You know, I'm as familiar with Star Trek as I am with Gilligan's Island. I didn't get cast in Gilligan's Island remakes, so that's it. So that was how, I mean, it was on every single day, every other day, every week, every year for a very long time. And I was familiar with it. I have not watched the other shows, DS9 and the rest of them.
I'd say the same thing. I was a fan of the
Wait a minute,
original, the original cast. Yeah.
Lieutenant, Commander, what's in
That's
your
a
pocket?
funky ringer there, man.
That's right, Bob.
Thank you. Next question.
Anybody else?
Hi. Hey. Okay. First of all, yeah, I didn't. Not yet. First off, I'm a huge fan of Kate. I've wanted to meet her since I was 7.
Did you say be her or meet her? Either way. Okay.
Either way. My question was, in that episode, it was called Memorial. You guys had like a lot of emotional acting in that one episode. I was wondering what you guys did to prepare for that, because throughout the whole series, it was not, it wasn't anything like that.
What happened in Memorial?
Oh God.
Memorial was that beacon that was sending out a message, and it was basically we were reliving the massacre that happened when that one alien race came in.
Which alien species?
Which species it was?
Oh, the.
I'll discuss.
Did I have anything to say other than, Captain, I believe there's the subspace anomaly. And
Now,
that's
here's
all I
the
ever
thing
said.
I want to say to this gentleman who asked the question nicely. You immediately assume we remember exactly what happened.
That's true. That's
But we
true.
don't, do we?
Nope.
Huh?
Nope.
Furthermore, as to the capacity for emotion on our series, I believe that was something that we all did with fair ease, don't you think?
Yeah.
Why do I suddenly sound as if I'm on some sort of tranquilizer? It wasn't an unusual thing to be emotional on Voyager. Janeway was quite emotional. and a pall fell over the room. Don't you think that we were emotional people?
Not in the beginning.
Most of you guys, I wasn't.
Caretaker.
I had to play the straight
Caretaker
man.
was very emotional, and our last scene together was wonderfully emotional.
The one in the was it in the briefing room?
You had Alzheimer's, sweetheart. I visited you.
That was the last episode when I was going crazy. Yes, that was crazy.
Alzheimer's
That
you
was
had.
wild. Yes, that was wild.
Deeply emotional.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kate, do you guys remember when we had that lunch with Rick Berman in the very beginning? We got the role on.
Had I been hired yet?
Yes, we'd all been hired.
Yeah.
And Rick Berman, the executive producer, said, "Congratulations on all of you getting your roles on Voyager. And for those of you playing human characters, which would be Kate, Beltran, myself, Robbie, he said, you guys need to downplay your delivery of your lines. You need to be more two-dimensional, less emotional, more militaristic," which in my book, it just looks like bad acting. But he said, you must do that to make the aliens look real. He said this, and I thought, this is ridiculous. Why would I do that? But I was my first job. I didn't speak up. And he then followed that up with, if you fail to follow my dictate, then I will then send a memo to you where you will have to reshoot that scene. And you'll have to reshoot and reshoot until you do it the way I want you to do it. So the first season, I reshot 2 scenes, and then I ended up towing the line and just doing this two-dimensional delivery to make the aliens look real, which I thought was ridiculous. But Kate, I recall you reshot 30 or so, many scenes. Do you not recall any of that?
No, Ensign. I don't recall that I reshot. In season 1? Well, it was nerve-wracking, wasn't it? Don't forget I wasn't the first choice, ladies and gentlemen. It was Geneviève Bujold, the great French-Canadian actress, who very wisely, and I say to this day bravely, left after a good 48 hours because she knew it wasn't for her.
Oh, boy.
Right? Very smart. And also, she couldn't say the crucial word. No. Take after take after take, she came onto the bridge. She greeted you all. She took the captain's chair and she said, "Engage." Is that not true?
Well, okay. There was only 2 people that were on the set when she was working. It was Robbie McNeil and myself.
It was
You're right.
myself as
She
well.
had problem. You were not there.
I was.
No,
I
you
did the
weren't.
scene- I did the scene with
Below
her.
Wait a minute,
You were
wait a
not-
minute.
Tim Russ. You were
I
a
was-
Maquis guy. Remember that? You were
No.
with
When Geneviève Bujold was on the set, I did the scene with her. I did the scene 3 or 4 times.
What?
Before Kate.
Just tell me the truth.
I'll
Did
tell
she
you the
say
truth.
engage or not?
Well, no. This is what happened, Kate. She did her thing. She had problems with basic technobabble. She did a pregnant pause before stuff like, "I will meet you at the turbo lift," like that, because she had to pause because, the English to French, whatever. But when she came around and sat down, she did an independent film take of Engage. She sat down and she closed her eyes, and when she went, "Engage," she whispered it. And everybody on set was like, "Oh my goodness." Like the cameraman was like, "Ah." We were like, "That is not a captain." And so then we waited. We waited for the new captain to come in. Then you came in and you were like, "Da-da-da, da-da-da," and you sat there and went, "Engage." And we were like, "Yes!"
Yes!
So it was night and day between her delivery and your delivery. And her delivery was not apropos.
Don't you think she was really marvelous the way she did that? She could have really screwed the. Excuse me.
She could have.
She could have
She could have.
delayed that
Yes.
decision, and it could have been. Manu, I'm sorry, are we keeping you?
I mean,
Everybody's got a phone.
the fact that she left after 48 hours was the best thing she could have done. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Great.
Yeah, it's true.
First of all, I want to say that I hate it when you 2 fight like that. Publicly, it just breaks my heart. But the thing I remember from the first luncheon that we were all out with Rick Berman, because I don't remember anything that you just said, but I do remember he said the words, "As I look across all of your happy faces, it's hard to believe that a few years from now, you'll all be suing Paramount." He actually said that. Do you remember it? I totally remember that line. And I looked at everybody else like, did he just say that? And he said, and he did, yeah, I guess because the original series guys' lawsuit that had gone on for 27 years or whatever had just been resolved. Because, all those posters and everything and the lunch boxes and everything in the original series, those guys didn't get paid for like 25 years for their images, So they had just settled the lawsuit, and I guess Paramount was smarting. But I do remember
he said that to us.
Were we all gathered at that lunch?
Yeah. As far
Was
as-
Jen Lean there?
Yeah.
I have no memory of that lunch.
I'm with you, Kate. I don't remember
It
either.
was just unbelievable. You don't remember it?
I remember just going to the set that day and they taking a walk through the sets and stuff. I don't remember.
I'll
the
tell you
look.
what I remember. 6 months of the brass standing and watching me. Those guys in suits, just watching and waiting for me to screw up. Right? Don't you guys remember that?
Yeah.
It was horrifying.
Yeah.
Really terrible. Don't you have pity?
Do we have another
Yes, we got
question?
over that fast enough.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, dear.
Hi. I've been watching you guys since I was like 2, probably. I grew up watching Star Trek, and would you mind if I told you something? Like, it's kind of embarrassing, but when I was in elementary, like 3rd or 4th grade, so I was like 8 or 9, I used to, there was these 2 trees in our recess place, and I used to pretend that was the bridge. And I would go around and I would play the captain, and I played Tuvok and Chakotay and the doctor and even Neelix. And I used to play all of you guys and walk around, and I'd like squat down and I'd say, engage. And so that's not my question, though. I was going to ask.
But that's great.
Good story. Very good story. Yeah.
But yeah, everyone else thought I was weird because I'd walk around and say, live long and prosper. And everyone that I came up to, they're like, she's so weird. Like,
Well,
what
wait
is
a minute,
she-
sweetie. You played all the parts all by yourself. Didn't you have little playmates playing other parts?
No, they all thought I was weird.
Oh.
They thought I was like, they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Star Trek.
Why did you squat when you said engage? That's fair. That's fair.
Because you used to sit.
You didn't have a stump or
Oh, you
something to
made
sit
up
on
the
or a
chair.
chair?
No,
She was only 2 years
used to-
old.
Well, no, I was 8 at the time.
She was doing a lot of squatting at that age.
She
It
was
good.
2. She was. I was 8 when I used to do that.
Oh, you were 8.
Yes. And yeah, it was. I used to, because you used to sit down and say engage, but I didn't.
But
have
I
a-
never squatted,
I-
dear. That would have been
I
most
didn't have a-
unbecoming.
I can't believe Captain Janeway's making fun of you. You told us a very heartfelt, touching story, and she's making fun of you. Shame on you.
It's not fair.
But I would have.
love your story.
I would have loved to have seen her squat and say the line.
All right, what's your question, sweetheart?
I was gonna ask you who's your favorite species? Like, what's your favorite species?
8472 for me. I love the Vidians. The Vidians they ate human flesh. I love them, yeah. They really looked like they
I
ate
think the
human flesh.
Kazon were really lame, though.
The Kazon were terrible. Remember that guy in the
Lame.
bathroom? Who was the guy in the bathroom? Patrick Kilpatrick. What did he do in the bathroom?
My favorite species were the trabe. Remember the trabe from Sacred Ground? They had vaginas on their forehead. Honest to God.
My favorite were the Kazon. They were the star, traveling race from planet to planet and so on, but they couldn't find water. Had no water. Where's the water?
What kind of
You've got starships, for God's sake. You've got to be able
And they
to
were
make...
always, weren't they? But they
Where's the
couldn't.
water?
Beltran, remember those aliens that were the catcher mask people, right? And there were these 2 actors that were cast. They were from Brooklyn. They were like, anyway, so Captain Janeway. I mean, they were we're just gonna ask you if we can, see if we could trade with you and stuff. I mean,
Well, there was one that was like from Brooklyn, and then there was this other guy that was like very English. What are you doing in our airspace? And the guy behind him was going, yeah, what are you doing here? I never could figure out why all the alien bad guys had English accents, I always wanted one to be, at least one to be like Latino, Hey, what are you doing in our airspace, eh?
And you didn't even bring a beer?
Beltran tells me this story. He's driving. He says he's driving home, and he sees these two, you know, kind of gang-banging guys on the side of the street, and they're looking at him, staring at him, and he's thinking he's gonna get carjacked, right? He's like, oh my gosh, oh my, and they're looking and looking, and all of a sudden one of them goes, hey, it's the commander!
God, dog.
The poor, God, I can't believe I blanked on his name, our amazing makeup guy. Michael Westmore, genius, had to make the alien of the week. Every week we had to have a new species, right? Because we're in a new part of space. And one episode, I don't remember what it was, but I'm over this guy at sickbay. It's a very dramatic scene, and the alien looks exactly like Bozo the Clown. He has a white face, he's got green bags under his eyes, and he's got red hair. He's Bozo! And the director goes, I see the director going, this is him. This is him. And then we're trying to shoot this, and they could never like shoot down because it was and the poor guy, he was a wonderful actor, and he's dying, but he's Bozo. And like we couldn't keep the camera on him long. Do a quick shot of before he looks too Bozo-like. Do you remember he was the clown? And I thought, and it's the same thing with the Trabe when you just run out of things to put on them.
But we had a real clown played by that very good actor. Jesus, we're all so old now we can't remember anything. Who was that great? Michael
McKean, yeah.
He was a clown.
No, but that was a different episode. I'm talking about we had a guy on the sick bay on the tape. That was a different one. That was he was supposed to be a clown. This was an unintentional clown.
Does that answer your question?
That's
Yes,
a
sir. Thank you so
fantastic
much.
last
I want to
one.
thank you, darling. That was a wonderful
That was the best
short
one.
story
Thank you,
shared
love.
with us. Thank you.
Can you take one more?
One more question.
Gee, one more question, and I get to be the one to do that. That is no pressure. Now, I saw Garrett a little while ago, and he mentioned Code of Honor. And he did a whole 30 minutes on stage of how Code of Honor was the most god-awful episode in all of TNG. I just wanted to kind of ask, and hopefully this isn't a silly question, what's maybe your worst and favorite episode, preferably of Voyager itself, but if you guys want to go crazy and just do Trek in general, go nuts.
Well, we had these shows called bottle shows. They were intended to save money, right? That meant we were not going on location. Everything was going to be on the ship. Sure. That's when I was reproducing with Lieutenant Paris in the turbo lift. That's my all-time worst. Can you imagine? Why are you laughing? Poor Robbie was just...
Go ahead. Favorite episode?
Death Wish.
Imperfection was an episode where I saved Seven's cortical node, and I had to give up my own to give it to her. And I was at home, and I was 21 or 22, and I hadn't done a whole lot of work. I'd done a really lame movie called Whatever It Takes, a geek film. But this was my biggest role. I was 21. And I read the script, and it was very powerful, and I knew that we were going to affect people. I was going to affect people, their emotions in a big way.
That's an incredibly powerful episode, yeah.
Yeah, and so I called my mom, and I remember crying, talking to her, saying, Mom, I finally get to do what I came out here to do. I think I'm going to do something that counts, Seriously, like bawling. And then we shot the episode, and a year later, I'm doing my first convention in Germany, and this guy stands up with his brother and says something to the effect of, I really want to thank you for Imperfection. It got my cousin or my brother, I don't remember, through his kidney transplant, and they both thanked me, and they had tears in their eyes, and it rocked me, and I started crying to them. They started crying back. I called my mom, and honestly, I'm not trying to be funny, because that's what this whole thing of acting is about, trying to affect emotions and get that connection. So I was so proud to do that work, that episode. My least favorite episode, getting ready for this, I decided to go back and watch some of it, because I'd never seen any of it before, but I wanted to know what you guys had done a little bit.
Evidently, you were amused.
Yeah. No. I watched the pilot, which was good, but there was an episode I tried to watch called Tuvix.
Oh, we didn't like
I
that
got
guy.
about 4 minutes in, and I just the guy freaked me out, man. I was just.
But he freaked everybody out. Remember that guy?
That was Tom. That was Tom.
Tom Wright. Tom
He was
Wright.
not a
Tom Wright.
happy guy.
He was not happy at all. That
No,
guy,
no.
he had a tough
He's an
job.
extraordinary actor. I've done
Yeah.
plays with him, and yeah, he was not.
He's very good. He had to play both of us. You know,
He
at the
came to
same
the
time.
show early to watch us,
Yeah.
and I think that he was the guy in Seinfeld who used to cut his Snickers with a fork and knife, if you remember. Really great actor.
A tough job to do.
That's also my worst alien species, the Tuvix.
Well, there was only one guy. I didn't watch much of the show. I watched some from the first season, and then I didn't watch it. And so I only remember from what performing in it, what I had the most fun as an actor with, and I would say Mortal Coil for me, because it was the most existential show for me, where we don't know what the hell is coming after we die. Nobody has any videos. All this certainty that people preach is to me a crock. But I also don't know if there's nothing. So in that show, Neelix is forced to embrace the uncertainty of life. And Beltran's character tells him, you know, we don't know what's going on, but as long as you're here, you know, you can be kind. And I thought it was a very powerful show. My least favorite probably was Night, because I didn't want to look at that guy who looked like a stool. It just did not, it was not fun.
Do you remember that? We could hardly get through one take. He looked like a big piece of poo.
Big piece of poo.
It was
I remember that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The captain's
log.
I didn't have any lines with him. But
impossible. We had these deadly earnest scenes together, right? And it was like, they were testing us, weren't they? I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just to comment on Tuvix, I love the Tuvix episode, and that actor I thought was amazing. And I remember, you know, when he left and Tim Russ came back. I'm sorry, Tim, but I was kind of like, oh. I was like, that guy was awesome. Anyway, I still love you, Tim. Don't worry. Okay. Tupac, hi. Okay, so my favorite episode was Timeless, which is the 100th episode where the ship crashes in the ice planet and 2 people are left alive, Chakotay and Kim. And then 15 years later, Kim has to save the day. And that was great because when we were filming that episode where I make everything right, I was filming with good old Bob Picardo here. And Bob was like, Garrett, you can act. It was like the first time that he realized, like,
Totally polite. I was totally respectful. You were spectacular in that show.
thank you. But it was kind of, but you gave me this look like you'd never.
Well, I just never seen it before.
Fine. Touche. My least favorite episode was probably The Shoot. Not because it was a bad episode. The Shoot was where... The Shoot.
the shoes.
The
there was an
shoe.
episode
I
where
thought he
we all
said the
forget about the
shoes.
shoes.
With the poo alien.
Where was that
No.
for that one?
The alien prison ship, where Paris and Kim were in the alien prison ship. That one. Because it was blood, sweat, and tears. Everyone in the crew got bronchitis. I got bronchitis. We got cut, blood, this and that. So it was a really difficult episode to film. But that was the one episode where Kim kind of flipped around and he became the mentor to Paris, if you remember that. The scene is Paris is on the ground. He's lying there, and I'm waving off the other aliens trying to come up to us. He's been stabbed. I remember filming that scene. I'm going, get back, get back. And I stepped on Robbie McNeil by mistake, right? And he goes, ow! And then he lies there and he goes, I hate not being the hero. I go, be quiet, like that. I was like, just. So anyway, those are mine.
I think my least favorite was Twisted. Was it Twisted or Shattered? The one
Twisted.
The one Twisted, where here's the plot of the show. The interior space of Voyager has been shifted around mysteriously. So when you go into a room expecting the mess hall, it's sick bay. So here's what we did for 43 minutes. We'd walk through a door and go, that was the show. That was the whole thing. Oh, well, this is not where I expected to be. For 43 minutes. All right, my favorite episode, just because I got to put my hand on the captain's ass. Tinker, Tenor, Dr. Spy. In the briefing room, when all three of our female officers are pitching themselves at me, and Janeway trumps them all by taking my hand and putting it on her lower back pain, ho, ho, ho. It was great to feel the seat of power.
It was great to share it, darling.
Oh, that's
I had a lot of favorite ones because I always liked the ones that were badly written. And so I had a lot of choices. But one of them was the one where I was trying to convince you, Captain, that I was coming from another time and place. And was it Shattered?
Shattered.
Yeah. And so I always just ask silly questions, like on the set. We're like, what the hell does a warp particle look like? But so I was sick of this episode, and I said, look, why don't I just take Kate to the window, and we can look outside and see that the stars are different. We're not in that part of space anymore. We're scientists, are we not? And so if we're traveling around, we wouldn't look, the constellation would look different. And so, this made too much sense. So that was one of my favorite ones. The other one involved Tim and Garrett. You remember this? It was the Klingons, and they had captured us, and they were pushing us down. And there was this one guy who was kind of effete. Let's put it that way. And he was the one that was pushing Tim down. And so the Klingons were like pushing us down, and we had to be on our knees like this. Well, this guy was being really rough with Tim, and he was going, "Get down!" And I was cracking up with Garrett, and I said, "Watch, Tim's not going to take this too much longer." So, and then the guy would go with his gun. So, about the third take, he pushed Tim down, and Tim goes, "Don't do that again." One more time. Once. Just once. That's all. And the guy was like, "I didn't know."
Well, you guys remember a lot more than I can remember. I just had a favorite episode, which was actually a two-parter. Not Future's End. It was Future's End. It was the two-parter, that time travel one. I think it was that the one two-parter. Which I thought was. I had a great time shooting it because we were 2 weeks off the soundstage. We were all over LA on location. It's springtime. It was beautiful weather. And I worked with Sarah Silverman. Sarah Silverman for that whole time. She was a hoot to work with, and it was me and Robbie, and we just running around. Remember on the beach, and we're over here.
Fun.
Oh, man, that was a kick in the pants. That was wonderful. I just enjoyed it so much. Yep.
I have the great pleasure of saying to you all that I couldn't possibly begin to count the wonderful times I had, the great episodes that I had, because I got to, many times over, had deep things with Neelix, wonderful times with you in the galley, cooking, our strange little...
You had the best lines. Of course you enjoyed it.
I had great lines, but I had a wonderful flirtation with you and the star. The doctor and I became great friends. I loved you in the end. You were my dearest dear, then you died of Alzheimer's. But I think the one that I remember as being so provocative and the single greatest seismic shift in Janeway was Death Wish. We'd seen her theretofore as this rather rigid militant. I mean, I was really an adherent of the Prime Directive, and I was all, for all the Star Trek thing. What is it called? Starfleet philosophy. And Q comes to me with his nephew, and the nephew wants to be judged on his right to commit suicide. I am adamantly opposed to it because it is against the Prime, it's against everything that we believe in. And over the course of that episode, Janeway is allowed to take that marvelous journey, philosophically, deep internal journey where she transcends herself in a way. So it was a beautiful exploration of who she really was, how much she is capable of understanding others and other species. And at the end, I said to John Delancey, Q, he has every right to choose how he wishes to live or not to live this life. And I thought that was pretty great.
Very cool.
Pretty great. Most of it, ladies and gentlemen, was pretty great. I have to tell you that, because these guys are pretty great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe that might be the end of our time. Can we give one more big round of applause for the amazing cast of Star Trek Voyager?